Hi, Rick DiClemente here. Welcome to Astrology Unplugged. Be warned, be forewarned that most of us are in the Pittsburgh area and we got big time thunderstorms coming tonight, except for Susan A., who's on the porch swing in Sundance, Wyoming. So she's moving around the country. We're keeping an eye on her every week and we're welcoming. She's reporting in like a roving Sagittarian reporter. Okay, now I'll tell you a couple things here. I have had some weird computer problems, and I sketched out all the notes for tonight, which I don't usually do, and now it's gone. It's not on my computer. So I got to ghost it somewhere. And anyhow, I've got the gist of it back. This hit me when I was sitting thinking last week. In case you're not used to the show is kind of like an online astrology magazine. We talk about different things here and there. We've been on for 4 years. This is something like episode 235. And after the show, I put this on YouTube on my channel. So you can see something. If you don't want to see it live or attend live, you can wait and see it on YouTube. Nothing is edited. Luckily. So I've been thinking lately when I've been dealing with clients, how do I put it? I've done shows about some of these stories. I'm going to repeat some stories tonight, but I bunched them all together into what I call the universe is inside, it's not outside. Well, that's a real glib kind of way of putting it. But there's really a lot to it. It's really an intriguing story. But anyhow, I realized lately when I was talking to a client that when a client's talking to you, I'm going to repeat this at the end too, you got to listen to what they're saying. What is the mood of what they're saying? You're also hearing, I went downtown, I bought some gas, I got in a car, I drove home. You're hearing the worldly part, but you're also hearing the story. You got to, as astrologers, because it's my intention here to teach people to be astrologers. That's what I do on this show. You don't have to be, but at least you can learn about it. But you have to listen to what they're saying. And if a person is telling you a story and everything's really vague and everything in their life that's happening is vague and what's going on in their body is kind of vague, then it's a real good chance that they're going through a Neptune transit. But you're going to hear that their story matches the planets that's on them at that time. And that's where you come up with this phrase that what's going on inside matches what's going on outside. As a matter of fact, there is no outside. There's only one place that it's all right here. There's only one place. It's all on the tip of this pin. And it's really hard to imagine, especially since I don't have a pin. Okay. So anyhow, hello, Dr. John.
Hey, Rick.
Glad you're with us. Okay, I'm going to get started. I'm recording, John. Don't worry. I'm always recording. I did miss it one time. It's John's job to remind me when I miss recording things. I'm going to start this off by repeating a story. Tonight's going to be a lot of stories. I'm going to start this off by telling you the story of the St. Louis Aries. In most of these cases, I'm going to suppress the names of the people, not to embarrass them, because it's really about case studies. But in her case, I don't know what her name is. I've tried to look her up and I can't remember who she is. So about 7 years ago, I'm doing this chart of this Aries in St. Louis, this nice lady, and we have an appointment for 1 o'clock. Let me move this around here. All right, I'm trying to move, yeah. I had to move Susan's out of the way because she's swinging so much that I'm getting dizzy. So that's why I moved it. All right, so I got an appointment with this lady for a reading at 1 o'clock. And I'm reading this Aries chart, and I'm starting to get, can release your video order here. So I'm starting to get this opinion in her chart that she's kind of stymied. She's not a true Aries. She's not really blunt and active and moving and dynamic. She's more held back. And I started interviewing her and I started to see, because I don't like to go into the parents much. I like to go into the parents a little bit, but I don't go into the parents much because people love to tell you all about their parents. Next thing you know, your hour's up. So I'd like to know a little bit about the parents. And I found out the parents were kind of repressive. They weren't mean, but they weren't Aries. They were Cancers or Capricorn, and they were kind of stifling. Well, the thing you learn about astrology after a while is that you got to let Aries go. You don't caution an Aries. You don't caution an Aries kid. If he's about to fall off a cliff, yeah, hold on to him. If he's about to jump in the stove, yeah, grab him. But for the most part, they have to jump, bump their head, then they learn later. That's not how you deal with an Aries. So I'm dealing with this woman and I'm showing you tonight's story is unbelievable. How every story I got for you, it shows you how tightly wound we are together through the collective and how there's so much more going on to us than just inside this head. So anyhow, I'm dealing with this woman and I'm late. It's 15 minutes after 1 o'clock. And I apologize to her for being late. And she's got an appointment at 1 o'clock at her house for the guy to come fix the furnace at 1 o'clock, and he's late. And he shows up at 1:15. So we both show up at 1:15. Claudia, have you heard this? Oh, good. This is real good. This is the main story in my next book. So I'm talking with her and we're talking and I'm sensing this difficulty. I'm got this kind of uptight woman. She's not really loosey goosey. Like with most Aries, they're really pretty loosey goosey. So I'm getting down to it, and all of a sudden I'm hearing this boom, 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 bang, 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 woof, 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 woof. The dog starts barking, and the guy's downstairs, bang, 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 banging on the furnace. And this is all going on for when I'm trying really hard on a cell phone to keep my concentration and read for her. And I'm starting to get kind of annoyed. And I'm starting to say something, and then I realized, and it was my biggest realization ever in astrology. I realized that the banging's got nothing to do with the plumber, and the barking's got nothing to do with the dog. It's all about her inner self not wanting the reading. And I'm see this all the time since then. The inner self is barking. He's getting near my ego. You better bark and keep him out. We're going to go to areas that are kind of tender. They're kind of sore. Let's not let him in. So what happens with the client is they want to go there, but they don't want to go there. But they want to go there, but they don't want to go there. Okay? And you'll see this all the time. Bad connections, storms coming, people dropping plates in the kitchen, all this stuff going on, all this distraction going on is the inner self saying, I don't want to let him in because I'm used to guarding this center, but I do want to let him in because I'm tired of this stuff. But I do, but I don't, but I do, but I don't. So I'm talking, I said, lady, what's going on with this guy? He says he's fixing the furnace. I says, I know he's fixing the furnace. And remember, I'm talking to her about, there's ditto. I'm talking to her about not being able to keep her light lit inside of herself because it's always put out by the parents. So after a while, she learned to put out her own light. I said, lady, what is he doing downstairs? What is it? Exactly what is he doing? She said, oh, I can't get the pilot light to stay lit. And I went, aha. It all came full circle then. I knew at that moment that all my astrological studies had come full circle. There was no longer a me and a her and a furnace and all this. There was just one universe, and she was telling this story, and I understood what she said. So as the discussion went on, he keeps beating the dog, going woof, 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 woof. Okay. As the story's going on, she's starting to realize what her parents did. She didn't hold it against them, but she started to realize how she bought the caution from them. She self-repressed herself. So as the reading's going on, she's starting to say, well, my God, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. Okay. And so she finally gets away. Well, I'm going to start doing this anymore. I'm going to be myself. And here I go. What I hear this club guy comes up, steps, lady, it's all done. Your pilot light's glowing steady now. Here's your bill. Dog stops barking. He leaves the house. It's me and her talking. I'm laughing because I know what happened. You see, most people have no idea what just happened. And they think you're nuts if you do, but I'll guarantee you that was all connected. So there you go. And I like to tell this story. And every now and then I tell somebody different. And months later, I'm going down the Pennsylvania Turnpike. A friend of mine is driving the car, and I'm telling him this story. And I'm saying, I'm working on this new book, which is temporarily called The Intimate Zodiac. I'm working on this book, and I'm telling him, I'm so happy with the cover of the old book being a shiny diamond on the front. And I like the lettering on it. So I said, the second book, I want the same kind of lettering, but I want something shiny here. And the guy says to me, well, why don't you put a picture of a pilot light? Okay, that was easy. A pilot light, that's perfect. Okay, 1, 2, 3. We go around the turn. Right when he said that, what do we see on the corner of going around one of these steep turns on the Pennsylvania Turnpike? What do we see laying on the side of the road but a dead furnace? Somebody dumped their furnace out on the road. Didn't want to bother going to a junkyard. So I could drive all day and night through all the interstates of America and never see another furnace, let alone at that second. So it just goes to show you how these things are so intimately tied. They really, really are. And I'm going to kind of try to change this topic as we go through the evening, because I'm trying to turn this topic this time into what people are saying about their life is really describing what's going on up here. And most people really think that they can control what's going on up here, that they have no control of what's going on out there, and everything out there is what's causing all this stuff in here. And they got it backward. And it is backward. And it's something we want to talk about because we want to welcome in the quantum world and bring it in a piece at a time, because it's not an easy thing to grasp. And as I was talking with Teresa earlier, Teresa, the kind of books you're reading, etc., we're starting to see the real intimacy of the quantum world and what's going on. Okay. And one of the reasons I think also that we're bringing this up more and more is we're in a lot of trouble in the US, and we're in a lot of trouble on this planet. And I think that this kind of inner education is hitting at the right time. Okay, I've got a microphone that's open. I'm going to try to make sure they're all closed down. All right. There it is. All right. Thank you for putting up with me tonight. Okay, so I'm going to jump around a little bit. These stories are not all back to back, but they're a similar vein. So before Liza came along, I was dating this woman for a while. And we got to the end of the relationship, to that very distasteful part of the end of the relationship, which we've all seen, where we all talk about, well, let's just hang on for a little while and see how much longer we can make this thing work. You've all seen it with your friends, and they're hanging on to make this thing work when it's all breaking up, and you need to just break it and go. And boy, is that a dangerous time astrologically. It's really, and we're trying to hang on and give it another try when it's clearly over with after about 3 years. and I'm walking up this hill under a transformer on a pole, and the transformer exploded above my head. And I have no doubt in my mind, none, that I caused that transformer to explode from my own inner tension. And I didn't get hurt. There was no fire started. Lots of sparks came out. But it was symbolic of the kind of energy that was being stored and repressed and had to go. I think you all can feel what I'm feeling in your own sense when you think about bringing things to an end, and it's just not easy. Okay, here's a good one. So I'm in my office. This is about 10, 12 years ago. I'm in my office and I'm entertaining this really nice young lady. And I'm reading for, and I've read for about 5 times. And it's all going really well. She's kind of a smooth, really professional, high-class woman, but she's kind of got a little high and lofty kind of air to her. And I'm getting to a point with her, unlike other times, where I can't break through. Usually I can break through what's going on, and I can't break through. And all of a sudden, something inside of me said, you're going to need to have to talk to her about her ego. And ooh, is this delicate? So I'm just kind of careful, and I've never had to do this before. And I'm really smooth about this. And I bring up the ego, and instantly, as soon as I bring up that word, bam, the vacuum cleaner starts running outside my door, up against my door. My office door, there's a vacuum cleaner running, making the whole room vibrate. Right? That's her inner self that I touched. And I touched that little word called ego, and it blew sky high. And the maid always comes at 7 o'clock to do her vacuuming. This was 3 o'clock on the nose. And she started that vacuum instantly when I said that word. And after about 3 minutes of us talking about the issue, which she wasn't happy about, the vacuum turned off and went away. When you hear that stuff, do not be in a hurry to repress yourself and agree with the public that it's nothing, because it ain't nothing. It's really something. That vacuum was inside that woman. And it exploded because that meant I hit the target. Well, we all got ego problems. So be it. But I touched that source problem. Here's another guy. Tonight is going to be lots of fun with Rick's stories. Okay. Here's this other guy. And I cannot get him to move forward. And if you're ever talking, trying to get your friend to move forward, 98% of the time, it's there a lunar problem. 98% of the time, there's a problem with their moon. And the moon is just not comfortable letting go when it thinks there's possible danger out there. And if you are wasting, I'm not going to say wasting. If you are using, there's somebody called East, they're coming in to wait for us. Okay, if you're expending a lot of energy trying to make sense and use logic and it ain't working, you're dealing with somebody that's a moon person and they're not logical. And they don't want to hear what you got to say. They want you to solve it for them. Okay, East is here. And I'm going to check on that and mute them. Okay, welcome, Mr. and Mrs. East. So that's what's going on. You lunar people are so emotional that they don't want to hear logic. But go over your past and think about the people that you've just talked and get their chart out, and you'll see a really active moon, a lot of lines to that moon. Okay? Doesn't mean they're bad Cancer, good Cancer. Doesn't mean they're Cancer at all. It just means their moon placement is just too prominent. Okay? So I can't get this guy to move. And so what do I find out? I find out the next day that some hobo, some homeless person, has broken into his basement and lit a fire to keep warm. Some homeless person has broken into his basement and lit a fire to keep warm because it's winter time and he's cold. And of course, it's dangerous because the place get burned down and then the person leaves. But you see the logic there. Do you see if somebody has a light of fire under him? It just goes on and on and on when you're looking for it. They had the light of fire under him. And I can't remember whether he got up off his butt and started moving or not. Okay, now, I've told you through the 4 years now, the number one thing in astrology, without a doubt, is letting go. When you see somebody who's really succeeding, ask them what happened the week before. When you see somebody that's getting a new job and a new promotion, and they got new hairdo and they got a new car and everything, money's coming in, ask them what they just let go of. And they'll always tell you nothing. Then ask them again. Then they'll say nothing. Then ask them a third time. Then they'll tell you what it is. Oh, well, I just broke up with Harry. I'm telling you, that's what it's about. Letting go is the story. And what I have found, there are no planets that's going to bring you Mr. Right, Mr. Right, Mrs. Right, whatever. The planets don't do that. The planets help. But what brings Mr. Right, what brings you swimming in the right ocean with the right partner is when you let go of your junk. That's exactly the number one thing in astrology. That's what makes it go. So in the old days, I'd look and see, oh, well, Venus is going to be here and Jupiter's coming in, and you might have a date within 6 months, and you'd forget that stuff. It doesn't have to do with that. It's got to do with letting go. And here's the reason why. When you don't let go, like when I was walking under that transformer, when you don't let go, you're busy lying to yourself. It's just that simple. You're lying to yourself. And if you'll recall in your deep readings here, Carlos Castaneda said to Don Juan, he said, but Don Juan, we always lie to ourselves. And Don Juan turned to him and said, why? I thought that was just brilliant. Why you do that? Which is just an amazing answer. But what I've learned about codependency, and I've really studied it deeply, and it's really good for you to read more and more Arroyo, because Arroyo is a master at codependency, solving it, and he's really the miracle worker when it comes to astrology and relationships. He's the genius. What happens when you're codependent is you're dead. You're not alive, you're dead. And when you're dead, you can't make money. Your skin doesn't look good. You're not sleeping well. You're not eating well. Whatever's going to happen to you physically. Why are you dead? Because the part of you that's alive, nobody's listening to it. That's why. The part of you that's alive, that's saying, I'm alive, I don't like this, let's get out of this relationship, is being repressed. So when I call that like your hose. Your hose or your conduit that goes from you to God, or goes from you to spirit, whatever you call it. That hose is being bent. And when a hose is being bent, you can't breathe. You can't get any life force in you. Nothing works. You can't get any ideas. You don't look good. You don't feel good. And when you start to let go, you don't even have to let go. You just have to start to. That life force starts to unbend, and the water starts to trickle in, and you start to feel better. You start to feel chipper, and your face gets some color in, and your friends say, where you been? You're looking fine. Well, where'd you get that new car? Heard you got a new job. The life force starts entering. But so many of us, not only are we taught, not only are we not taught how to deal with ourselves, we're sure as hell not taught in grade school, etc., how to deal with a relationship with somebody else. It just ain't easy. So breaking up is hard to do. Yeah, it is. Okay. All right. So I got this really nice Taurus woman. No. I got this really nice, I believe she was a Sagittarian. This is a long time ago in my office, and she's a secretary for this bigwig. Okay. This bigwig Taurus who's really into his money. Okay. He's a bigwig. I can't remember what he was, but she's kind of in charge of the office. She's not the financial director, but she's in charge of the office. So what happens is, as she's starting to struggle, when I had to dig deep, and I had to dig deep to find out the struggle was with her father. The father, I don't care what you say, he was just abusive to her. He was abusive to her. She was in her 20s, but he dominated much of her mind. But he might not be beating her, but he may as well be beating her in her mind. And she's taking all this abuse and keeping this guy alive in her mind. That's where the problem is. Since then, I've learned that it usually goes back to the past life much more than the present life, and the father's just playing a role. So what happens? One of the secretaries, one of the staff people there embezzles a whole lot of money, and he doesn't know what to do. And he's a Taurus. And Tauruses don't like losing their money. So he sues her. He sues the woman that I've been reading for because she should have been on top of this. And of course, she comes to me. She's in danger of losing her job, and they're topsy-turvy to her whole life. And I'm lucky enough because I'm growing as an astrologer, and I didn't get into all this. Oh, I see a funny figure walking around in your life and deception and all that junk. I don't work at that level now. I work at the level we got to get rid of Dad. Dad's the problem, not your boss. And she's like, oh, you're crazy. So she goes away, she comes back, it's still going on, And it's getting closer to the trial date. And this guy's serious. So I said, listen to me. Go to the graveyard, because the father's passed. Go to the graveyard, sit by a stone, and you tell him everything that you hated about it. Tell everything you loved about it. And you're going to get a lot of both. And she came back to me a couple of weeks later. And she said, I did that, and I felt so much better, and I got it off my chest, and I went to work the next morning, and the guy dropped the lawsuit. This is really, really common when you're looking for it. He dropped the lawsuit. Another story. I got a woman, I'm not going to mention names. I got a woman friend. She's got an older daughter, and the daughter married a guy from the Middle East, and they had a child. So she's keeping an eye on her daughter and her granddaughter, and things are going south in this marriage after a while. So after a while, and she's talking about divorcing him and keeping the child, well, he tells her he's going to kill her. You don't mess with males from the Middle East. I guess they win everything. So the mom comes to me. What am I going to do? What do you see? What do you see in a chart? Is he going to kill her? What's going to go? It's not where it's at. The problem is, and this is thanks directly, John, this is thanks directly to the Course in Miracles. I said, you tell her that all she's got to do is decide that she does not deserve to be abused, and he will go elsewhere. What? I'm not looking and monitoring this guy's movements. This guy doesn't even exist. He's just an energy in her head that she has created in order to abuse herself. Just tell her to decide and investigate how much she thinks she deserves to be beat up or tortured or killed by somebody. And you tell her to decide that she does not deserve to be abused. And she did, and the guy went off his way. Now, what I heard latest thing is they're getting along all right. They're divorced and they're sharing a child. They're sharing custody. So these are the dynamics that are replacing today's psychologists. These are the dynamics that are replacing all the pills because we're starting to get in charge of what's going on in our lifetime because we're getting in charge of what's going on in here. Everybody, raise your hand if this is making sense to you. Oh, very good. Now, raise your hand if you're kind of hearing stories around you that are similar. You seeing stories that are similar? Don't doubt it. Don't doubt it. Okay, I just wish to God I'd listened to my first wife and made notes of all these things when they happen because I got thousands of them. Okay. This one, this will get you good. How about, I told you about letting go is just unbelievable what it does to your life when you give up the false narrative. Well, this lady I have so many people come to me and they tell me they're so unhappy with their job. Boy, is that a big one. That's a really big issue. That's a really important one because it tells you how much they respect themselves in terms of letting themselves fly or not. So this woman, finally, I'm just showing you an example of how this works. This woman, I didn't even talk to this person. I just found out this story. This woman wanted to quit her job. She finally got the nerve to go quit her job. She couldn't get to downtown Pittsburgh. Some guy out of nowhere raised his hand. He volunteered to drive her down so she can walk in, get her box of stuff. I quit and walk out. So this guy drives her down. She doesn't even know this guy. He goes around the block a few times while she goes in, gets her stuff. She quits her job. She comes out and she says, "Hi." He said, "Hi." "Hi, how are you? How are you?" Her next guy was already there before she let go. That's how this works. That's how this works. I'm going to have to get on an opposite station with Dr. Phil and kind of compete with his stories. Oh my God. But that was a real good one. Now, some of the things I watched for many, many years, I watch a lot of crime shows. I really like to watch the shows of who are the bad guys, what did her chart look like, what do the planets look like when they do their bad deeds, what do the good guys look like. And I learn a lot because I get the dates and I learn a lot about human nature. One of the most dangerous things I've learned about is when people want to move out. Okay, well, here comes the thunder. I'm going to unplug, so I hope we got enough gas to get through. One of the most dangerous things in families, in dynamics, is when we've been keeping son alive, we've been keeping daughter alive, and we keep paying and paying and paying. All of a sudden, we cut off the tap. Man, is that deadly, dangerous, dangerous. Because the person who has the tap cut off usually feels entitled, all of a sudden has nothing. They can't get to anything. They have no money and they're being forced out. It's such a rude awakening that the ego usually can't handle it. It's much easier to pinpoint it on the person that was doing the enabling. Very common. Another thing that's really, really common is when people move out. I've had enough of this. I'm going to go get my own apartment. Dangerous, dangerous. And the reason it's dangerous, of course, not always, but one of the reasons it's dangerous is the person that's moving out usually stayed too long, and they usually stay too long because they got low self-image. So when they move out, they take with them this repetitive thought in their mind, I'm really not going to make it. I'm really not going to make it. I really don't deserve to make it. I really don't deserve to make it. And then all of a sudden, somebody jumps on them or whatever. Really, really dangerous stuff. Very common. Very common. Now, I've talked to you about the signs. I'm not going to go into this again. The signs that are the most common for killers, murderers. I'm not going to go into that again. It's not a very polite conversation. But I'm going to tell you something I've found in my recent studies. The most common victims I'm finding in the zodiac of harsh penalties, harsh incidents, murders, etc., rapes, Tauruses. Tauruses are just so commonly, not always the case, but you have to think about that. You have to say to yourself, why? And I learned a lot about it. And I think one of the reasons is Tauruses are very trusting. They're very innocent. When you're friends with them, they're very stable. They stick around for a long time. They're usually not really suspecting. So I think a lot of Taurus people, plus they're known for sticking with something way beyond when they should. But that's definitely something I have noticed. Tonight is Tidbit Magazine, everybody. Tidbit Magazine. Okay. Now, what do I got to tell you about John Lennon starting over with an album called Starting Over? And look what happened to him. And if you listen to that album, he was full of life. He was reborn. It was a beautiful album. His wife wrote some songs. He sang Woman on there. Some of the most beautiful work he ever did. And a few months later, Mark David Chapman. So what happens when you start over, and you got to investigate this in yourself, is you got to tell yourself, I am starting over consciously, and I do not deserve any crap from it. It really is that simple. I am starting over, and we're really bad about allowing ourselves to be off the hook. We're really bad about it. And I don't know Mr. Lennon, but I'll bet you some of that was going on. I'll bet you it was. And the final thing I've seen here on my list of warnings, you wouldn't believe how dangerous late October is. Unbelievable. October 21, 22, especially 23 and 24. The dangerous days. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. That whole last week of October is so dangerous. And the reason is because we're going out of the lame, peaceful, loving sign of Libra into Scorpio. It's the Scorpio cusp. You would not believe how many people, their trial is pending, and all of a sudden they get called to go in on the 23rd of October. But anyhow, just to let you know, watch those dates if you've got something tempting going around. John, go back through your case studies in law and go look and see what happened to you around 23rd, 24th of October. You'll see this. Also, wow, we got Ditto to calm down. That's really good. Another thing that you'll notice, the eve of birthdays, the eve of the event, very dangerous times. The eve of birthdays, the eve of the event that you started your business, but it's the night before. And the reason why is the sun is a trigger. And when it goes around, it always triggers what it's about to hit 1 degree for 4, which is 1 day. So when you're driving around on your day before your birthday, be extra careful, be a little bit extra cautious. Don't go in the garage and turn on the buzzsaw. Just in general, watch out. And this goes for everybody's birthday. So this is what happens when you reach into the files of all the old goodies. All right, now, here comes the story. This is showing you how the body, and Nook talks about this in her book on the Course in Miracles, the body is a neutral device. It doesn't have any opinions. It just functions according to what the mind says. The body does what the mind directs it to do. And a lot of people say the body doesn't even exist. It's just a mental image. And I'm not going to get into that stuff because it's really high and mighty stuff. Okay. So I'm watching the Super Bowl. I'm watching the Super Bowl with this guy. And he happens to be this is about 15 years ago. I'm watching the Super Bowl and I want you to pay attention to the emotions, because that's what's critical here. How powerful the emotions are when it comes to the body listening to the mind. This guy's become a real racist. And on the commercial, this is about 15 years ago, so mixed marriages weren't as common as they are now. But he saw this commercial, Super Bowl commercials everybody's watching. And this great big black lineman, NFL guy, huge dude, he's got this little pretty blonde wife running around the kitchen with him in the commercial. It's no big deal. And he gets up, and that's emotions what matters there. And he screams at the TV, I can't stand seeing this N-word. I just can't stand seeing it. Well, we waited for him to calm down, watch the game, no big deal, go back to our dream state. Next morning, he wakes up with a detached retina. The mind says, well, the eye says, I don't know how to help you. You don't want to see it anymore. I could unplug my eyeball for you, or I could unplug my ears if you don't want to hear it anymore. That's how it happens. That's how it happens. And it's fueled by the emotion. The body is shocked. The body's shocked because the mind says, God, I just can't have this. And Becky, I know you're a doctor. I don't know what level you work at, but I don't think this would be a real twist of your arm to get you to believe this kind of stuff. I just don't. Because it just makes sense. The body listens, says, how can I help you? I'm tired of going over there. I'm tired of going over there. Car doesn't work. Leg stops working. What we say is so important. This same person with the detached retina, about a year later, I see some stuff coming up in this chart, and I see it coming up 3 months down the road. Here's what this story is about. All right. He's in a real codependent relationship, and you usually can't touch a codependent relationship. You can't say anything about it because it's going to backfire. You're not going to get anywhere. But he's in one of these relationships where the wife is always screaming bloody murder at him, and he tells me that he can handle it. He's got a way of handling it. And I say, yeah. And the way he handles it is he goes in the kitchen and he stops talking to her. So this is his way of handling it. He just ignores her. Then they play the not talking bit until they make back up, whatever, instead of dealing with the issue. Well, I see Pluto coming to his Mars. Pluto's coming to Mars. And when Pluto goes over your Mars, it means it's time for you to show some of your testosterone. Because Pluto really makes that testosterone level get higher and higher and higher. But when it comes, and I gave him 3 months warning, when it comes, you got to use it. You don't go in the kitchen and go, You got to use it by at least standing your ground and saying, look, I don't like this. What's going on? I don't like being talked to this way. Blah, 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 blah. That's what Pluto Mars does. And if you don't do it, Pluto finds another way to dismantle you. So I was off by one day. 3 months later, and one day, he's at work and a truck came through the wall. He's at work in his chair and a truck came through the wall, the corner of the building, and smashed him up against the wall like this. And he did not get hurt. There's a photograph of him against the wall with his chair and the truck bumpers right here. And I'm telling you, if I had not talked to him, he would have been killed. If I had not put that message in his mind, somehow, I missed by one day. But what's happening, it's not the truck that's killing him. It's he's killing himself by not fighting for himself, by not defending himself. So the truck was just another warning. It was just another warning. So you see these things happening. And this was a lunar person, a person with a really strong moon who doesn't want to listen. Doesn't want to listen. They've learned their way of manipulating the universe, whatever you might want to call it. Here's a woman that looks out the bus window going down the street in Pittsburgh. She looks out the bus window and sees another woman get hit by a bus and die. She sees it happen. Awful thing. Awful thing. So I'm having a long talk with her. This is a long time ago, trying to explain why she saw it. She saw it because that's the kind of images she entertains in her mind. But she thought I was saying to her that I caused the woman to die. Not what I'm saying. I'm saying you got the front seat to see that because you're doing something inside you that's allowing yourself to die a violent death within you. That's what you have to talk about. And you have to hope and pray that you get a client that you could talk about these things, because it's a real mature level. But most of the time when people are inundated with such a dark experience, they can see that they're walking on thin edge. They're seeing this in their own life. But she chose to blame me for saying I blamed her for killing the woman. And so she didn't pick it up. So she went on. But that's part of it too. You gotta let it go. Gotta let it go. Now, 2009, I don't know what happened to me. I don't know what happened to me in 2009, but I must have been encountering a lot of difficulties because I wasn't loving enough. I don't remember exactly, but all of a sudden I'm in open heart surgery in the morning. 17 people are in that operating room and they've stopped my heart and packed it with ice. They've stopped my heart and packed it with ice. 17 people for 7 hours. And when they're done, what they told me, when they're done, they shoot you with certain medicine and they hope your heart will start beating again. That was a good part of the story. And of course it did. But that was my message to me. In my own way, I had to learn that my heart wasn't open. So God said, okay, we'll open you right up. We'll just open you right up. So it is literal. Everything about the body is literal. It's literal. And thank God I got better and better as time went on. So that was really good. Now, here's a funny one. Remember I told you about the woman that's always screaming at the guy? This happened to her. Oh, boy. So she's walking along in a parking lot and she steps on a rock and she didn't break her ankle, but she hurt her real bad. Okay? Well, in astrology, the ankle and the calf muscle, everywhere below the knee to the foot, is ruled by Aquarius. And I looked in her chart, and there was Uranus doing something untoward. So the whole point is, when you have a problem with your ankle, when you have a problem with Uranus, it will show up in your ankle. But why? How does that rock know to hurt your ankle instead of hurting your knee or your foot? How does it know? I talked to a lady yesterday who's top fit physical trainer, helping people all the time, in her 60s, in tremendous shape. So I looked at Saturn's hitting Saturn in her chart. I said, how's your kneecaps? She says, oh my God, they're killing me. She says, I don't know why, but they never hurt. I said, that's what Saturn. But I ask you, why? Where does this come from? How does Saturn know to bug you in your knee and not in your foot and not in your right eyeball? How is it known? And we cannot be stupid enough to just cancel it out and not give it any thought. We don't understand how astrology works. We certainly don't understand how it rules the body, but it just does. And if this woman were in a car wreck yesterday, she most likely would have hurt her knee rather than some other part. And how can a car wreck decide that? See, it doesn't work that way. It's got to work the other way. It's got to work the other way. Okay, more good stories here. Okay, here's a woman I know. Couldn't get her moving. Lunar person. No reasoning will work. Lunar person. You do it for me. 3 car wrecks later, she's okay. She had a lot of operations. 3 car wrecks later, she got hit in the back 3 times by 3 different cars. 3 different wrecks. There went the thunder. What's it telling you? It's time. The universe is warning her. I'm trying to give you a boost. Get moving. Instead, oh, I can't do this because I lost that relationship. Whatever it is. So what we're learning today is Pluto is really a pretty good guy. My cat's running around going crazy now. Liza? Scared of the thunder. Hold on. What we're finding out now we're dealing with Pluto in a whole different way, because we always dealt with Pluto, but now it's Pluto and Eris. And they're 2 different bodies. Pluto gives you warnings. This person that got hit 3 times in the back, ended up with back operations, lots of pain before she got moving, if she did. Well, finally, Pluto will stop warning you. It will stop warning you, and it will get rid of you because you're just a threat to evolution itself. Eris is different. Eris doesn't give you warnings. She comes out screaming. So she's kind of a maniacal. And she's got a good side to her, but she's kind of maniacal. She's a lot harder to handle than just Pluto is. And she's upon us now. I wanted to take a moment to remind you that you've got till September 1st, you got the next 18, 19 days to apply for Deneen Joiner's free. One person's going to win a free soul reading from her. She's been a guest on this show. She is a marvelous shaman. She's really, really good. And I've had a soul reading from her, and they last for hours, and they're excellent. And she'll tell you all about your ancestry and who's keeping an eye on you and all that type of stuff. The way you can apply for it is to go to her website, Deneen Joiner, DENEEN, Deneen Joiner, JOYNER.com. And you can apply there And you'll have to answer, I guess, a short paragraph about why you want this. And one person, she's going to read them all and pick one person that she feels leaning towards helping this person, and that person will will get a free reading. Okay. Here's a story. Now I vaguely remember this, but this is a woman I really like. I know her pretty well. She's really, really nice. She went to rescue. She's a Pisces, wonderful woman. She went to rescue her kid from a meth life. So you can picture that. That ain't pretty. And she got kidnapped. She got kidnapped by the people making the meth. And got her life threatened. So I was looking at her chart at the time, and it was really bad shape. It was really, really scary. And it all came down to what? Did I look for planets that were capturing her? No, that's not the idea. The idea is the world captured her. The world was keeping her prisoner. That's the idea. So we had to talk about, what have you been doing? You're a wonderful woman, Pisces. What have you been doing all these years that keep you a prisoner? And then the tears start. And when the tears start, you're in good shape. When the tears start, you're in good shape. She came to realize, I can't remember how she got out of the situation, been too long ago, but she took out of it. Yes, I've been treating myself like a prisoner, always in service to everybody else. She's a Pisces. She ain't any good for nothing. She's just going to keep serving and doing and giving and giving and giving and giving, which is Piscean nature. And she finally realized, I'm not doing it anymore. She's just not doing it. So I didn't hear much after that, so I would imagine things got better. And I feel sorry for the meth child. I hope he or she got better. These are just more and more stories from the files of Astrology Unplugged. Okay. A lot of times what I realize when I'm doing these charts, people need their brain to stop working. They don't say it in those words, but they need their brain to stop working because the way they think, how many people they can't stop the way they think? They're just kind of like on wild loop of some kind. And what they do is they subconsciously wish for the brain to stop, or they have a subconscious death wish. So I know this woman, I've known her all my life, wonderful, beautiful woman. She comes into 2 major falls in the operating room. She's an operating room nurse. 2 major falls, major concussions in her 60s. Now she can't remember things. And I got to talking with her. I had to be real careful because she was raised by a Nazarene preacher. But what it was she was raised with all this hardcore Christian concept of doing what the Lord wants you to do, having no freedom yourself to do anything. You really can't use your own mind. Yes, she was a Virgo. You can't use your own mind to do your own thing. So she had to find a way to tell the brain to stop working. You got to stop working because when you think, then my whole past is threatened. The dogs start barking and off goes the vacuum cleaners. Now it's very sad. She has very bad short-term memory. She's getting older, 72 now. Brain doesn't work nearly as well. She used to be sharp as a tack. So those of you who are in the medical industry, just watch these dynamics. Listen to what these people are saying to you. Listen to what they're saying. Now she's following you around. Boy, let's go with mom. Mom will keep me safe. Okay. All right. Fun with Rick Knight tonight. I'm reading for this Taurus lady, very pleasant woman. This is 15 years ago. And she says, Rick, and she's a really nice lady. She says, Rick, my kids are driving me nuts. And I look in her chart and I see Uranus is very active. And I say, yeah, she's out there just driving me crazy. I said, well, honey, do they usually drive you crazy? Is this something sudden? She said, well, I don't know, but it looks like all of a sudden they're just driving me crazy. So I know, of course, it isn't the kids. It's Uranus knocking on the basement door. No, Uranus is knocking. Let me out. Let me out. Uranus wants out. And the Taurus is not easy to let them out. I said, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I said, for the next week or so, I want you to go out in the backyard. She had a bunch of little ones, 5-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old. I said, take them out in the backyard with a hose and get them soaking wet and make a great big pile of mud. Make a great big pile of mud and just slip and slide with them all day in this mud and let them throw mud at each other and get mud in their clothes and everything. And then let's see how you are in a couple of weeks. She called me back in a couple of weeks. She said it was the greatest thing she ever did. I said, what do you think was happening? You think your kids just changed? It was you that needed to come out. You need to have some fun. You need to go beyond these self-contained boxes that we're in. So we did it with a little bit of mud, a little bit of water. Didn't even cost anything. And she had fun. And I don't know the future, but I imagine after that time, she learned about letting loose. So it's really literal. Literal. When you're doing a person's chart, listen to what they're saying, but listen to what they're saying. Okay? They're two different things because they're going to tell you the story. Okay, we're going down through the list here. Okay, this is my wonderful Liza. Several years ago, she's working at a job she's not appreciated. She's having trouble. She's over dedicated. She wants to keep on working, keep being there. Boy, I get the clients like that. And man, is that dangerous because they got their insurance and they got their money and all these bills to worry about. And the answer is you got to get out. You just got to get out and trust that the universe will open up for you, and they will. But we don't trust. We just don't trust. So what does she do? She gets in a wreck downtown, T-bone, her fault. Not hurt. Her car's not hurt real bad either, but it's an upsetting wreck. And I guess moments later or the next day or whatever, that was a jolt she needed to really start thinking about getting out of that job. And her niece calls and says, I got a job waiting for you. Interested? It's always happening. That's what this God stuff, this Holy Spirit stuff keeps telling us about. I know what you need before you even know you need it. That's what it's about. It's because we're living in that realm where those things are possible. They're not shut off. Now, I don't know how many days she has to keep driving to that intersection till her niece calls her again, but I think it'd be like several centuries. Did I tell that right?
Pretty close.
She said I told her pretty close. That means it must be pretty darn good. Okay, good. Very good. There's a good one. So, what I wrote down here about body parts, isn't this weird how when you have head injuries and your Mars is being hit and you got Venus injuries and your neck is being hit or your kidneys or your throat. And Mercury is really weird. Mercury is all your arms, your shoulders, down your other arm. And when Mercury gets hit, those parts of the body are affected. So we go straight down the body. It's really weird how this shows up. And Dr. Becky, why is this so common with Neptune people? people with Neptune problems at the time or natally, and they have problems with Neptune or Pisces planets, and they have all these illnesses. They go to the doctor gives them something, starts guessing about flu and stuff. I hope this battery lasts. There we go. We got some bad storms. But almost always with a Neptune problem, almost always, I'm not a doctor, but almost always is not real. It's imaginary. It's not hypochondria, it's hypersensitivity. The person's just sensitive to water, they're sensitive to food, they're sensitive to color, they're sensitive to something that they weren't sensitive to before. And that's what's causing the illness. They're just too sensitive. In most cases, I like it because the Neptune people get out of it without any harm. Now, I've even found with Pluto will even warn you with something like a cyst or something like something you got to get tested and you find out it's benign. I've seen a lot of cases with Pluto like that. But with Saturn, no. Saturn's a real deal. Unfortunately. Saturn comes around usually because Saturn makes the thing manifest. Saturn makes things real. It makes it congeal. Not always, but the zodiac is about keeping loose and light. No surprise to you, is it? The zodiac is about being loose and light, staying loose and light and open. Now, what I get written down here near the end here is that Liza and I used to do a monthly show in Pittsburgh. And got a lot of women callers late at night for this talk line. And they would call, read my chart, read my chart. And so many of them talk about their house. They talk about their curtains, about their windows, putting a pool in the backyard. They're adding a room. They're doing people. A lot of the women we talked to were just really, really interested in how their home was. Well, I didn't ask many of them about how their marriage was. I'll let that alone. But what I asked these people to do is to replace the word home with the word heart. Every time they use the word home, put the word heart there. And you'll really be surprised what you'll hear. I want to get my heart more open. I want to get my heart expanded. I want to get my heart closed, more careful, more guarded, some walls around it. But they'll tell you the story. People will just tell you their story. They'll tell you their story. The final thing I have written here is the phrases that we hear. The phrases that we hear every day that we take for granted and we do not look deeper into it. I was like separate from myself, watching myself. I was in an accident. I was above the operating room looking down on myself. I was beside myself. I'm coming out of my skin. What got into you? What got into me? What's gotten into him? These terms are describing literally what we are, how we are, and we cast these things aside like it's nothing because we over-identify with the body. Excuse me. So that's about the end of my material. I want to leave some time open for questions in this regard. Please address your questions along the lines of these types of events, or tell me a story about what you've seen, because I think it's really fascinating. And please raise your hand and participate. Who's got a good one? What about Ditto? Ditto got a good one there? Ditto says, I don't have enough experience yet. Shelby?
Watching you move your hands. He was
Yeah.
watching you.
Ditto. What about Linda? You got any stories for me tonight, Linda? Usually I can call on you and you've got a pretty good story.
you just mentioned about the out of the body experience, and right before you mentioned that, I'd been thinking about something that happened to me when I was 25, and I had surgery on my ovaries, and there was a chance that it was cancer. They didn't know, but what happened was on the operating table, my heart stopped, and I saw myself. I saw the whole thing, and heard everybody talking in the operating room, and they're telling me to breathe, and I'm saying in my mind, I'm saying I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, and obviously things worked. They brought me back. Everything's worked out, but I shocked the anesthesiologist because I was, when I was up and walking, because they used to keep you a long time in the hospital in those days. I was in there 8 days, and I was walking up and down the hallway, getting stronger from the abdominal surgery. And I saw the anesthesiologist, and I had never met her before, but I had seen her during the surgery, and she was shocked. I said, "Thank you so much for everything you did to me, because all the talk that you were doing," I said, "it really was very helpful." And she said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, I was
watching you.
I was watching you.
Yeah.
I tried to tell you back that I was fine." And and she was completely
And we
astonished.
need to all get used to these stories and start blabbing them, because that's the only way that we're going to inch closer to what we are.
Well, I mean,
What you are is not the body.
and one of the things that, it was, it's something that I still think about, because as a touchstone in my life, I remember that it was my first big experience of gratitude. That is, I was aware that I had I could have just not come back. I could have not come back to the body, but I wanted to come back to the body, so I did. And then I was very grateful to the people who helped make that happen.
Well, that's just a wonderful story. Thank you very much. And I want to append that to you, and I want to go on to Dr. Becky and ask her a couple questions next. But I wanted to ask you this here. If you people or people you know are going through a strong Pluto transit, anybody here going through a lot of Pluto? Nobody's going through a strong Pluto? Oh, John is. Okay. I'm going to tell you what a Pluto transit means, because I've tried to describe it for 30 years or so. But I'm going to put it really simply for you. Okay. What Pluto means is your passions want out. They don't care about anything. They don't hear anything. They don't hear excuses. They don't hear anything anymore. They don't want to hear it anymore. Your passions want out, because that's what passions are. They're passionate and they really want out. And the more you suppress it, the more that cyst is likely to become cancerous versus benign. That's how I've observed it. But as I've said to you, Pluto's very forgiving. It really seems, it does have an altruistic side to it. So if you're going through a Pluto time, don't try to intellectualize what's happening to you. Feel what your heart's screaming about. And the more you listen to it, instead of thinking about what could happen, that's my advice to you. Now, Dr. Becky, I just wanted to ask you, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you don't have an example, that's fine. We'll go on to somebody else. But I was just wondering about you being a doctor for so long, and tonight's discussions about parts of the body and et cetera, and Linda's experience. What about your varied experiences as the doctor?
I don't have anything on top of my head here to tell you.
Nothing that jumps out.
No, I'm not working anymore.
Okay, so I take a chance. Thank you for trying. Let's go. Thank you anyway, Becky. Let's go to Erica. Yes, dear.
Well, I studied hypnotism for quite a while. And one of the basic things about hypnosis is that you talk to the person or your own subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind will believe anything you tell it. It has no logic whatsoever. So if you tell it, you know, I'm blue, my skin is blue, it will do everything it can to try to turn your skin blue.
I bet it.
So self-talk is incredibly important because it doesn't really discern between what's right, what's wrong. And that's how you help to hypnotize people, is to, you know, when they're in a trance state, you talk to their subconscious mind. Of course, it's things that they want, goals that they're trying to work on. And
I agree with you
so
completely.
that's how that happens.
I agree completely. Thank you, Erica. And I wanted to finish because I did forget a part of that story that I want to come back to, of the woman who worked in the ER. She had the 2 concussions. What happened then, when it was over with, Liza and I got to talk to her, and we got to see Uranus transits going on in her. And what was going on with her, and it happens with a lot of Virgos, she was trying to give herself permission to free herself. She wasn't going to become a prostitute. She was just trying to free herself to be able to go do some things and have some fun. And if you guys are not Virgos, Virgos can have a hard time with this, because that power that's beyond them is pushing them all the time to be productive, be an active, productive member of society. Is very tough. And we talked and we talked and we talked. She just kept denying it. Oh, I don't have any problems. Oh, I don't have any problems. I don't have any problems. I just go do it. And you could just tell she's worked 36 years in a row at the same room, the same hospital. You could just tell she was not going to liberate herself. And the falls were a direct response from Uranus. Because Uranus is that part of you that wants to be yourself. And I know her, and if she let the real self out, she would have been fine. But it went against her very strong biblical upbringing. Okay, anybody else? That was an interesting story. Dr. John, anybody else? Yes, Claudia.
You're not going to believe this.
I will believe it. I will believe it.
Yeah, I know you guys all will.
I will
Okay.
believe it.
I'm sitting here listening to you, and my girlfriend from work, who is, she was born in 57. I don't know how old she is. I don't do math well. She said, I have news for you. I broke my left foot and my right kneecap. And so I don't have her chart, but I just asked her, and I looked it up right now. And she's a 24-degree Cancer. And she's got Mars squaring her, she's got Uranus squaring her Mars right now. So she broke her kneecap, and then she broke her foot.
What about her head with Uranus squaring Mars?
She didn't say anything about her head, but I'll have to ask her later.
The foot is Neptune, but the Saturn is definitely the knee. Yeah. Okay.
Amazing.
Now what do you tell? She's under what? What's hitting what?
Her Pluto's opposing her sun. I'm sorry, Pluto right now is opposing her sun.
Well, that's a big deal.
It's exact.
Okay.
It's a big deal.
Let's just stop right there. First of all, you got to ask yourself, has she had other warnings over the past year? Because Pluto goes through a path like hit you, wait 6 months, hit you again, wait 6 months, hit you again. So it can loop around for a couple of years. So has she had other major warnings to her health in the past year and a half?
Oh, yeah, she had.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you can stop right there, and you got to ask yourself, here's the probable story. What I just tell you, Pluto is about expressing your passions and going with it. But that's not what Cancer does, usually. Some cancers have no trouble with it, but cancer is all about ready, aim, stop.
Yeah.
Ready, aim, fear, stop.
Mm-hmm.
Ready, aim, fear, stop.
Yeah.
Because of what could happen. And there's no sign like cancer that can insert those fearful statements of, oh, it could be this and could be the boogeyman, it could be this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And she stops herself. And that's what creates, I guarantee if she weren't doing that, the Pluto wouldn't be manifesting this way.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Now, since it's opposing,
amazing.
Claudia, since it's opposing, you get a seventh house connotation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you got Cancer. Where am I? I went over here. You got Cancer here, you got Pluto here. So that would tell me that she's probably on the edge. John, I'm coming to you last. She's probably on the edge of getting rid of a relationship. And it's scaring her to death. Because what am I going to do? Your answer is?
Let go.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, I know your answer is like, but I mean, what's the reality of it?
The reality is happening. It's her job and her husband.
Right. Okay. Now let's be legitimate. Be honest now. Right on the table. What's going on with the husband?
She's extremely frustrated with him because she works her ass off and he doesn't really want to do anything.
Okay. The question with the Cancer is, has he turned her into his mother?
Possibly, yeah. From what I know, that's very possible. But
And she's
I
played the role.
I don't know enough.
That's where you got to investigate.
Yeah,
You know,
I got it.
what you do first is find out what his relationship was like with his mother. He's probably trying to reproduce it. He's probably getting her to take care of all his needs while he does nothing. And then every time her passion comes out, which is normal living,
Mm-hmm.
she shoves it down. So she's been warned. What was her other accidents like?
Well, she had a cancer diagnosis and she had some, yeah. I mean, it was very treatable and that was good.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
definitely. So
you-
I feel like she is open to, I think she's open to really understanding more about what's going on with herself. She's
Good.
not really into astrology, but I could see that she'd be open to listening.
Well, even if it's not astrological terms, usually when these
Right.
Pluto transits work, they're feeding your unconscious and you start to grow. You start to grow. You start to grow. You start to accept things that you never thought about.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's a really good story. You see how it's applicable.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll finish up with John H. now. Thanks. Mr. H.
I had to unmute myself. Yeah, I'll make it quick because I know we're running out of.
We have time there. Go ahead.
You know, I've told you about my God experience and I described it. I wrote about it in Lifting the Veil. And I've always think it was a veil that was lifted and then I could see, what I saw. I think I'm wrong about the veil. I don't think God put a veil there. I did.
Of course you did.
Yeah,
Of course.
so, my ego at that point lifted the veil. But I couldn't stand it any more than I put it back. too
Well,
much.
that's okay. That's normal too. You can handle what you can handle.
Right. So, but why can't anybody just say, well, I'm going to lift that veil myself and look at God? If I really,
You can, and what I've realized recently, it took a lot of time to get to this point, but I really believe 98% of us on this earth are here by mistake. I think we're here. I don't mean that literally. I mean, we think taking another lifetime was going to help us, and we really didn't need to. The other 2% are here just to help. But I think that almost all of us are already fine the way we are. We're already great, and we're already accepted in God's eyes. And we didn't have to come to here putting ourselves through this torturous, self-correcting, navigating path. But I think you're exactly right. And I think a lot of the A lot of the literature of the saints and the mystics have said that they just lift it when they wanted to lift it. But if you study Ram Dass closely, Ram Dass tells you you don't lift it because you're not ready. And your nervous system, according to Yogananda, Ram Dass, your nervous system can't handle pure cosmic energy when it's just that abrupt. So you have to work your way towards it.
I think
But again, I remind you, you are a very cerebral Gemini. You're trying to think, well, what are the reasons people do it? And the answer is not in the mind. The answer is in the heart. The answer is, can the heart handle it?
well, here's the problem. It'll cost you if you do that.
It'll cost you how?
Everything will be different.
Well, why will that cost you?
You will see reality as it is.
And
And
why the negative connotation of it's going to cost you?
not negative, it's very positive, but that's what we're afraid of.
You just said it in a negative connotation. You can do it, but it's going to cost you.
It's
What did it cost Linda when she was above that operating table? Linda saw reality. She saw reality. She learned to be grateful.
that's why then you're going to have to change.
That's okay. And I would imagine that since that day, Linda has changed. I would imagine. And that's what we're all doing that on this show. We're all inching closer. Aren't we all inching closer? I know myself, I've had cosmic consciousness experiences. They were wonderful, but I don't want them ripped away and have nothing but that in front of me all day long. I don't feel ready for it. I need something more gradual. That's how I feel. You're in a position you may not come back again because you're really a super advanced intellect. Who knows? We don't know the answers, but I think that's one reason we all come here, and we learn it through the science of astrology. We could very easily put the astrology to the side, but I do think you just expressed yourself as if it was a negative, scary thing, and I think you need to own it.
I didn't mean it to be negative at all.
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
It's like the cost of something. It's hard to express, but it's not negative. It's very, very positive. It'll cost.
And the Gemini twin feels the other way, huh?
It'll cost you your illusions.
Okay. So do you want your illusions or do you want reality?
No,
Huh?
of course I don't.
You don't want your illusions.
Ego does. My ego wants them.
Okay, now it makes sense. Now I understand. Well, thank you all for coming tonight, and I hope you YouTubers enjoyed it. I tried to pull out some things from the old files of Astrology and Unplugged, and even way, way before Unplugged, and to show you some of the stories of how intimate this stuff is. It's really intimate, and I worry about your friend, Claudia, and I hope you can be of some help to her. The fact that we talked about her is a very good sign, but you have to help the cancers out because cancers they're born tender. They just are tender. They need more TLC than everybody else. And I hope you can help her with that, and hope all this helped you tonight to get a little understanding of how these dynamics work. So see y'all.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thanks,
Thank
Rick.
you, Rick.
Thanks, everybody.
See y'all
Stay
next
safe,
time.
everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks.
Great
Stay
show.
safe.
Wear your mask.
And Shelby says night.
Bye, Shelby.